Doc, how are you, sir?
What's up, Matt? It is a absolute pleasure to be connected to you and chatting with you. I love the work that you're doing with these boys.
Oh, brother, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Yeah, we've got some amazing young men in here. We got some of our amazing dads and leaders in here too. And yeah, I get to do this every Friday. Where I get to hang out with people like this and bring in people like
Living the dream.
exactly, man. I got zero complaints.
Can I bring my 4-year-old son? Is
Are you
that
kidding?
I
Come
have
on, let's go.
It's
Come
all
on
good. It's
in.
all good.
Dang right, man. Hey,
All good.
Doc, where are you in the world? Remind me.
I am in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Any Canadians in the house?
Very cool. I think there are absolutely. We'll see who we got in
Oh,
here. We normally
oh.
have some Canadians, so I think we might have some. I'm gonna try to bring up the participant list. Yeah. Oh, I see Martin's in here. Yeah, Martin just gave a thumbs up. I was gonna say, I see one right off the bat. So, yeah, man, absolutely. Are you born and raised? Are you born and raised out
I
there?
was I
Canada?
was born in Iran and I moved to
Okay.
Canada when I was 4 years old. So
Okay.
Canadian, but Iranian background.
Yeah, so that's home. Good for you, man. Very cool. Well, I'm excited that you're here, man. I've been diving into your stuff and I love the work you're doing, man. And it's funny. Um, a lot of times when we bring in guests on, especially on Fridays when we've got our young men here, a lot of times I like to walk through the like, well, let's get the version of you at 13, 14, and kind of where you go. And maybe we'll touch on some of that because it might be relevant. But there's so many cool things you are doing that I want to make sure we honor the time and actually get to some of that earlier.
Sure.
So I'm sure some childhood stuff is a possibility that that comes into the mix.
I
But
want to make it relevant. There's so much in here. I want to
I
make it
know it.
relevant for the boys in this group and how we can really uh, help them leave here with some skills and some tools that help them navigate the complexities of life and relationships a little bit easier.
That's exactly it. And you are outlining things that are you outline things so beautifully from what I've been able to see. So I actually kind of want to start. So you started as a chiropractor and
Hmm.
then went into the trauma specialist, right? So
Yeah.
let's start there. So where the idea to become a chiro, and we have chiropractors, but we have quite a few actually within our tribe. Uh,
Yeah.
where did that come from? Where you decided that was the
Yeah.
path you wanted to go, and then we'll go to that transition to focus on trauma and attachment healing and all of
Yeah. Well, I was 13 years old when I was having headaches and hip pain, and I got my first chiropractic adjustment, and I was like, whoa. I was
that.
13. I had my first chiropractic adjustment. I got up off the table and I said, that's what I want to do. And one
Mhm.
of the things that was very powerful that has really shaped me, that I'm very fortunate enough in what I'm going to really make sure that I instill with my son is that the fact that I knew what I wanted and who I what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be became a very cool North Star for me to point to as I was going through the awkward phases of trying to identify who the heck I really am, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I got up off the table and I just went and researched and I said, all right, so what do I got to do to become a chiropractor? And then I said, all right, and you need these degrees, this is all right. So I need to get a university. I got to go to university. And so these are the programs that I need to have. So I went to the chiropractic school in Toronto and I took like a list of all the requirements needed to get in. And I said, all right, I need these courses in university. So I said, all right, this is what I got to study in high school so that I can go into university so that I can do that. So one of the first things that I wanted to really instill is that even if it's not your end goal, to have a target as
Mm,
men to be able to, when we're in hockey, there's a goal. Basketball, there's a little bucket, right?
mhm.
Darts, there's an aim. When we're aiming for something, anything that we're moving towards, even if it's not the finished product, the fact that
Mhm.
you're aiming towards something, you are well ahead of others. So that
Very
was one of the cool things that I got to do. And so as I got into chiropractic, and I felt really great the fact that people were coming to me with stress related issues and I could adjust them. I can do chiropractic work on them. And then they felt better and they started having changes in their health and their mood and their lifestyle. And it felt amazing to just be able to work with the nervous system and be able to produce a result. But there's two things that I noticed. Number one is that during the process of the healing process, certain people would get better, and then others, no matter what we threw at them, wouldn't get better. That was the first thing. The second thing going on simultaneously was that although I was really good at helping people with chiropractic with my hands, I personally was living with relationships that were really volatile. We were fighting all the time. I always had this mystery of using relationships to get validation. So it was this weird situation that I was really great with helping people with their nervous systems, but me, I couldn't regulate my own nervous system personally in my personal life. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like this two, two. It was this dualistic thing. Is that
Yeah.
I'm really good with one, but
Yeah.
I'm not great with the other. So it wasn't until I got into a divorce and then several failed relationships that woke me up to the fact that no matter how good we are on the outside in putting, doing our work, doing good work out there, like in your case, Matt, you're
Yeah.
doing good work for people. However, if I'm not personally living it in integrity
Right.
with what it is that I'm teaching, things are
Right.
going to fall apart. And it did. I had an epic colossal breakdown in my relationship where there was abuse going back and forth and I became abusive. And
Mhm.
I had to wake up and go, how did this happen? How can I make sure this never happens again? Can I ever have a healthy relationship? And if I can, which I figured it all out,
Yeah.
can the concept of becoming trigger proof was born. And now I left my chiropractic practice, studied attachment healing, polyvagal theory, somatic work, trauma work, and I healing the traumas from my past. And now I love teaching that to other people.
So dang good. So it's not just because you framed it as a what do I want to do? You're talking about that journey as a young man. So what do I want to do and who do I want to be? And a lot of times those are questions that for some reason we put those two things together, but they're two very different questions. What do I want to do? But who do I want to be? And sometimes it is that first. Who do I want to be? How can I be that person? And then
Mm,
by the way, that'll fuel what I do. Because the way you
yeah.
framed it too of some people would get better and some people wouldn't, and then you started to recognize yourself in the, well, there's a part of me that is on that wouldn't side, right? And so how do I change that guy and what do I need to do? I love that. I think you
Yeah.
framed it beautifully, and I
And
love the aim. uh
yeah, the thing is, who do I want to be? I wanted to be a doctor. I
yeah.
wanted to have
Yeah.
the credentials. I wanted to be looked at really favorably. And like many doctors going into it, I realized it was about the status. And
Yeah.
why we want to be those things is because it quiets it hopefully quiets that little insecure little boy that feels like he's not enough. Maybe
Mhm.
if I become a doctor and maybe if people tell me how amazing that I am, then I will feel good enough. And so when I got there, an interesting thing that these young men will soon realize is that there's nothing like a relationship
Mhm.
that exposes all of these little insecure parts of us. And so this
Mhm.
was part of my journey after becoming a doctor and becoming successful at what I did to fail in relationships so that
Yeah.
I can then fill the cracks in the floorboard of what was missing, which is really I just my insecurities that I didn't feel like I was enough and I needed that external validation.
So man, there's so many places I want to go with this. Some of my favorite
Where do we
stuff, man.
begin?
This is some of my favorite stuff. So you're talking about, the understanding that, which again, I am following this, and I know so many of our men here and our listeners are adults that'll follow this path. They'll get it. I've got this thing that I've been going after, and then I go after it, and I realize, shoot, there is still all of this stuff. The relationships start exposing the little boy or the little girl that is still inside me and is trying to, like, I'm getting exposed. So we've got young people here. How do we take a look at that from their perspective now and go, okay, is it like an early attachment style thing? Is it a, like, how, what do we do now as a young person to shift towards secure attachments now so we don't face it as much later, because then we need to also talk about, and hey, by the way, there's adults here, and what do we do there? So how do
Yeah.
we start building this almost that titanium, you said earlier trigger proof, and I don't know if this is going to be the exact same thing, but like how do we future proof ourselves here for these young guys?
It's kind of like the question you're asking me right now is forcing me to go in and go, what would I tell myself if I was, how old are these guys? 10, 15.
We've got, yeah, well, I think we have as young as like 11 or 12 up to about 18 or 19.
Perfect. Okay. So let's say I
That's
was 14
perfect.
years old. What would I tell my 14-year-old self? This is the question essentially you're forcing me to kind of go into. I'm like, all right, Nima, what would you tell your 14-year-old self? And I'm almost embarrassed to say this, Matt. Should I say it?
Good.
Is And by the way, the parents that are listening, the dads that are listening, the only way that we can have our kids, the greatest gift that I realize that I can give my son is a father who loves himself.
Mm,
Think about that. The
mm,
greatest gift, because we want our children to grow up owning who they are, that just feeling a sense of certainty in their direction, not swayed by external opinions, but grounded in their own truth, right? But how can I lead Dominic, my son, to that if I'm not living it myself?
mm,
So my work is to become the most self-loving person so that I'm leading my son from a place of self-love and self-worth, because I can't tell him to do it if I'm not living it. That's the first thing. So what would I tell my 14-year-old self is, Nima, you need to learn how to love yourself.
mm,
And that sounds very esoteric. I remember after my relationship broke down, and it was like, my relationship broke down and my last relationship, and I was like talking to a friend and talking about how I reacted, because our truth comes in our reactivity. The
mm,
truth of our insecurities. I can sit here and pretend here that I'm confident, but the truth comes out in a moment where I'm in distress, and my I get triggered and I get activated in anger, in defensiveness. That's where all of my insecurities show up, and it's unconscious. And
mm,
and so when I told my friend about this, she said, Nima, you don't love yourself. And I was like, yeah, but how do I do that? Right. And so I went on this quest, truthfully, honestly, earnestly, sincerely, to find out, how do we love ourselves? And I realized it's not about, on social media, bubble baths, pedicures, affirmations in the mirror, although those things are great and I'm not opposed. It's really, I realized it's about, we grow up. And because we grow up in societies and cultures and families that try to instill, the right way,
mm,
right? We have religious idealisms coming in, we have societal idealisms coming in. And because of that, when we react to certain things, our caregivers, our parents, give us the message that certain parts of us are not lovable. Like
mm,
Nima, like good boys don't get angry, good girls are agreeable, right? So the angry part of me, the sad, the part that gets sad sometimes, the part that sometimes wants to cry, because the vulnerable parts of us, we get the message that they're not lovable.
mm,
So what we do is we take these parts of us that sometimes are sad, sometimes are depressed, sometimes get really angry, and sometimes doubt ourselves. And then we put them in the closet and we lock them away because they're unacceptable. And
mm,
what I realized, that self-love is actually about going and finding those not so uh, appetizing parts of ourselves, the parts
mm,
that we are trying to hide, and getting to a place of understanding towards them. And
mm,
so love, and I want, maybe you guys maybe want to write this down. I had to reframe what love is. Love, we all know about the experience of being loved. Everybody says, I want to, love myself. We think about the experience of being loved. being waited on hand over foot, being told how amazing we are. We know about the experience of being loved, but we don't really learn how to love. And what I realized, that this is the one thing I want everybody to get, if this is the one thing everybody gets from our time together, it's this, is love is simply making the effort to understand.
Mm.
Love is making the effort to understand who? Myself. The parts of me that are reactive, the parts of me that seem to get defensive when you criticize me. I want to understand why that is. I want to understand him, the insecure parts of me. Why? Where did he get the message that he's not enough?
Mm.
So that I can bring my adult self online and give that younger part of me that feels he's not good enough the validation that he's seeking externally. And
I love
that
that.
was a massive shift for me in learning how to love myself and then follow my impulses and take the time to rest and eat really good foods and exercise and move my body and read things that grow me as a human being. These are ways that we love ourselves because we're now treating ourselves like somebody that we really respect.
Yeah, that's a good. I love that. And think about that, guys. If you would, how do you treat yourself? Do you treat yourself like somebody that you respect? Do you treat yourself like somebody that you love, that you hold in high regard? Do you treat yourself that way? That's a great way to look at it. And I like the way you framed it too, right? So love, making this effort to understand yourself.
My
You're
reactions.
you understand your reactions, where this comes from. And you said, these insecurities that come out in reactions, a lot of times they're unconscious. So you are making every effort to bring the unconscious conscious.
Correct. Carl Jung.
That's it's exactly right, right? So Jungian psychology, right? You're bringing that, you're making what is unconscious conscious. And then I've got to imagine, because look, there's parts of this. I'll at least I'll just speak for myself. I know the more I've done this over the years, the more I'm like, okay, I accept that this is who I was or what I did, or okay, I accept this. Also, I accept that while not I can still love myself for who I am now, but I'm not going to go back and repeat that either. I'm not going to accept this is just who I am. Like the people, well, this is just the way I've always been. I've just always been this angry, cantankerous, whatever. Okay, cool. I don't have to accept that too. I can love myself in a different way that actually calls me to change and do that. So how do we get that good part of like I want to be this person? I see my triggers, I see my reactions, I see these, I accept it, but I want to be better. I want to treat myself as somebody in high regard. So I want to change that unconscious
Mm,
so that when my reaction comes out, my reaction is no longer like, okay, now I'm fearful. And so now I'm just yelling at everybody and I'm panicking.
yeah.
Now I got that same trigger, but I react calmly.
Yeah. How
What
do you get
changes the
there?
unconscious that comes out, right? So, like, how do I reprogram that?
Great question. Well, this is basically what I have my programs, everything I
Right.
teach. It's
Right.
called shadow work,
Yeah.
right? Shadow work is all like honestly, shadow work saved my life. And I wish I understood like these guys and their in their teens, they're learning about shadow work. Like this is blowing my mind that it's coming out
It's the
because I had
best,
no
man.
idea what that was.
And
But
this is the dark passenger that you speak of.
correct. This is that
Okay.
dark past. So here's the truth. I mean, parents, we know this. I have a 4-year-old, and sometimes he's like this beautiful, just joyous little boy, and then other times he's a little tyrant. Okay, you can just see it. We all have that part of us, right? Gentlemen, type in the chat if you've ever noticed that you have these two sides to you. This really great lovely, handsome boy who just wants to do good in the world. And then there's this other part of you that just wants to rip crap up.
Man, oh
Just
man.
wants to burn it all down. Type in the chat if you can relate to this. Jekyll and Hyde, right. You got this, right? My day yesterday, right? Okay. So, what you're describing, gentlemen, this is called the shadow. I want to kind of put you at ease. We all have this part of us, it's called the shadow. This darker nature. And so if we are divine in nature, I don't know how much spirituality you teach here, Matt, but we have divinity. But every light casts a shadow,
Mm.
right? Every light, you know, the lighter, the more greater the luminary a person is, the darker the parts of them are. And what happens is, because society, you know, we have this split of good, evil. It's like a black or white thing. You know, it's kind of like my son when we're playing around. He's talking about, he's all into Spider-Man right now. He's like, you're the bad guy. I'm going to be the good guy. And so there's this black and whiteness to reality, the hero and the villain.
Mm.
And what happens is shadow work is acknowledging that we all have a little villain inside of us.
Mm.
And instead of trying to run away from that part of us, the practice then becomes to notice your triggers, what triggers you, what gets you really upset, and start to notice. And do you guys want to do an exercise of this?
Yeah.
Can we do it? Can we do, to
Yeah.
answer your question, what better way for me to actually do an exercise, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Social, totally, totally. Okay. So what I'm going to get you to do is to go to a moment where you were triggered by somebody. Okay. So the trigger, let's say when you were criticized, take a moment and let's think about a moment when somebody, maybe your mom or dad, maybe somebody at school, friends, some drama that's happening with your schoolmates, teammates, whatever. What I'm going to get you to do is to imagine that moment, in that moment of trigger. And so in that moment, what it's happening, you hear the criticism and go into your body and put your hand over where you feel the constriction. There's like this little blast of emotional pain. We're going into the neurology, and put your hand over it. For me, I usually feel it right here, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So put your hand over it. Take a few deep breaths and notice the constriction and release the constriction off of it. And the invitation then is for you to ask the question, because they said this, what am I making it mean about me?
Mm.
And just go into that inquiry. And I'm going to invite you, gentlemen, to type in the chat, what am I making what they just said mean about me? It's an I am statement.
Mm.
Okay? It's an I am, finish the line. Type it in the chat. And I want you all to see how similar our shadows are. I'm
Mm.
untrustworthy. I
Mhm.
am weak. Perfect Malachi. I am untrustworthy. And Menos Ward, I
Mm.
am weak. I am mean, right? And somebody who's mean is bad.
Mm.
So here's what it is. I'm bad.
Mhm.
I'm unworthy. I'm less than. I'm not good enough. Okay? That, and here's the question. As you're there and you're feeling that, drop in and now close your eyes and now sink back and go into these memories of your childhood or earlier on in your childhood. How old do I feel?
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
How old do I feel?
Exactly.
4. Perfect.
Exactly.
This is the shadow that came up, Matt. And so this shadow is this younger part of you, a part of you that believes that they're bad and unworthy. And to protect yourself from this unworthy feeling, what are you going to do? That pain is too much for you to bear. So you do not want to feel that pain. There is no way you're feeling that pain. So what are you going to do? You're going to react with a protector
Mm.
and say, no, I'm not. You are. You think I'm this? No, you're that. I'm not. You're wrong. And so you'll go into defensive mode. You'll go into deflection. You'll fight them back. You'll run away. You'll hide and avoid everything or react in whatever. You'll lose your crap, dump all over them. You'll get physical. You'll get mean back. But what happens is you're trying to protect yourself from the
Mm.
pain of that shadow, that
Mm.
part of you that feels I'm not enough. And so, what happens if you were to take a moment right now, Matt, and connect with that 4-year-old inside of you Because when you get criticized, somebody criticizes you, immediately you go, I'm bad, I'm mean, just like when I was 4. The answer to your question of how do we respond rather than react is you must first make contact with the 4-year-old inside of you
Mm.
so that you can parent him. You can become the adult that he didn't have at that time. And when you do that, your adult brain, prefrontal cortex, comes online. If you don't do that, you're still in the child brain reacting to try to protect him. So
Mm.
this is a rewiring over and over again, rehearsal, much like a golf swing, much
Mm.
like a football throw, much like batting practice, in baseball. How do you change your, faulty swing? Through practice.
Mm.
So I discovered this concept of becoming trigger proof in my community where I help people rewire those conditioned reactions and responses of defensiveness, judgment, blame, uh, kind of like child mind in conflict,
Mhm.
and you actually be able to respond. Because now, once I've taken care of that once you've taken care of that 4-year-old inside of you, now the conversation looks like this after processing that for a few months. Listen, what you told me felt really critical, and I got to admit, it brought up a lot of guilt and shame. But I really want to hear what you have to say. It sounds like you have some feedback for me.
Mm.
And so you're rehearsing soothing the 4-year-old before communicating. So
Mm.
expanding that space between stimulus and response and soothing the younger parts of you that get triggered because only your shadows get triggered. So this becomes a lifestyle of shadow hunting. And when you
Mm.
do that slowly, this builds character. It builds self-worth because every time you're able to connect with those younger parts of you and give them what they were missing, you become a more secure person. Your
100%.
your brain starts to repattern. Instead of staying as a child,
Yeah.
you start to become an adult who's able to have empathy towards others because you have it towards yourself. And especially for the dads in the house, my reactivity towards my son when he, gets on
Yeah.
my nerves is a lot less,
Yeah.
because I'm able to repair with myself. And then even if I do kind of like we do have a rupture, we're able to get back on the same wavelength very quickly because we're all
That's
human.
it's so good, man. That's one of the things I was going to ask too that's coming up on this. So I love this. And you're reacting with that protector, but then unfortunately, what we do, we start letting the protector drive the bus, right? And that's where all these things come from. So you're going back in, contacting that early, and I can remember. I mean, I picked 4 for a very specific reason. Very
Correct.
specific. I can remember exactly like it's one of my earliest memories, and so I get that. So you go back through and you're contacting that 4-year old, you're parenting that 4-year old. I love that. I love that you said only your shadows get triggered. That is such a powerful understanding. So we've got dads on here too, right? And so
Big love to the dads.
so much
I
love for
see
these
you,
dads.
dads.
So we know that we've got to go back in and repair our own 4, 5, 6-year old, right? We go talk to
Yeah,
that person to change our reactivity.
yeah,
Say we go, okay, you know what? But I also see where potentially I created an environment for my own child when
correct.
she was 4, he or she was 5, right? Shoot, I may have saddled them
There
with
is no parenting without guilt, Matt.
there's not true
There
friggin'
is no
story.
parenting without
True
guilt.
story.
We can't
So
get it right perfectly. Boys,
at all
our parents can't get it right all the time. It's not your fault.
true.
They can't get it right all the time. We're just a work in progress. Sorry to interrupt you, brother.
No, no, sorry at all. So, for the dads that are sitting there going, okay, shoot, do we have do we have the opportunity,
Yes.
your experience, not only to go in and help soothe that 4-year old inside of us, but do
Mhm.
we go soothe, that 4-year-old inside our now 15-year-old
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever that looks like? Can
Yeah.
we impact that way too?
So I love that you asked this because I help parents. right? I help parents, and everybody who kind of goes through my process all says the same thing, is that my kids have seen a different version of me. Because what happens is, as you get better at parenting the younger parts of you when they get triggered, because that's what gets triggered, naturally the way that you show up with your kids is less reactive, because you become more compassionate with yourself. Naturally you'll be more compassionate with your
Mm-hmm.
son, because the reason why we're so hard on our boys is because we're hard on ourselves. Okay. And so what I always tell parents, I say, you're having a problem with your kid. It's not about the child in front of you. It's about the kid inside of you. And once you resolve that issue, then automatically the conversation that you have with your son is different.
Different.
You're so much calmer, because you're not in the identity of the child.
Yep.
Once you've healed with the younger part of you, you then are the adult, and then you can have compassion towards your kid rather than projecting your own failures or fears onto the child. You have so much more capacity to be with their imperfections because you've been with your own.
Beaudreau. It makes so much sense, man. Oh, this is so good.
Yeah,
Gentlemen, I have something specific that just popped into my head
go
with
for it.
what the doc was just saying, and I want to ask this. But gentlemen, young men and men, I want you guys to be able to come in on this too. So if you guys start putting your hands up, I'll start bringing you guys in for some Q&A on this too. And again, men, I know some of this stuff is for you too. Like, please raise your hand and throw it out there. But so you're explaining this, all of this so well, and so it's driving a whole lot of thoughts in my head. So sometimes that reactive self, that 4-year-old self, or like shows up as the person that lashes back out, or that fights back, or that pushes back, or that, you know, whatever that reaction is. Is that the same mechanism as when somebody reacts and they react by being a people pleaser, right? They react by getting into this like, okay, well, the stressor comes here, and so I'm just going to be a people pleaser so that this person, like, right, instead of fighting back, they come back with like, sure, whatever you need anytime, and they're like sacrificing everything about themselves to people please, and is that the same sort of thing?
That is exactly the same thing. So I'm going to go over 4 reactions that you can start noticing. Okay.
Uh,
Armian, you get it? Armian, you get it? Number 1 reaction, and this is what there's 4 reactions of distress. There's one called fight, which is poke, arguing, getting defensive. There's flight, which is running away. It's like, soon as there's discomfort, I'm out. There's freeze, which is, oh my gosh, like I'm overwhelmed. Like when the threat to your system is so high that running away would be dangerous,
mm,
or fighting would be dangerous. Like if somebody comes over and walks into your home, and, you're at gunpoint,
mhm,
you're like this. You're not going to run because you can get hurt, and you're not going to fight them because you can get shot, right?
mhm,
So you're just like this. That's the freeze response. The flight is, oh my gosh, there's a bear and I got to get the hell out of here,
mm,
right? The fight is, you fight when it's somebody and you're like, okay, I can't run. It's going to hurt. I got to fight this person because
yep,
I got to survive. So these are survival mechanisms to distress. The 4th one, and the most insidious one of all, the one that's the sneakiest, is called the fawn response. Okay. It's appeasing,
mm,
fawning. Okay. And so it's really interesting because when my wife goes out for girls' night, and so it's boys' night. So tonight it's boys' night. She's going out with her girlfriends. And so my son and I will play, we'll hang out, and then we'll do some wrestling. And then he loves it when I just start chasing him around the kitchen. And I'm like, rawr. And sometimes I'll go a little bit intense and I'll be like, rawr. And then he's running and I notice his system gets so freaking spooked
Mhm.
that he turns around and he's like, gets scared and turns around and comes after me. And he's like, I love you, Dad. I love you. I love you. I love
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Right? Have you
Yeah.
noticed that? Have you ever seen that happen with you?
Yeah.
That's called the fawn response. And what happens is the fawn response is a survival mechanism where we have a predator coming after us,
Mm.
somebody that is, that we see as a threat. And we make a snap decision in that moment that to put on a character of agreeableness, of niceness, of flattery, of love is going to help us survive. And they
Mm.
do this in like some severe trauma cases with abusive type of relationships. They have the whole trial going on with Diddy and, all these people that are going through this trauma. I
Mm.
believe, when somebody is extremely powerful, they attract a certain type of person who's like fawning and they say yes to things because they want to maintain connection or they feel threatened as to what's going to happen if I'm not agreeable. So
Mm.
fawning is a neurological appeasement response to try to maintain favor with what we perceive to be a predator or somebody who could get us into real trouble, right? And so this becomes a natural reaction. So fawning becomes our natural reaction to, like, okay, I'm just going to do this to
Yeah.
please so that I don't get in trouble. And what happens is we develop into this and we abandon our truth for the sake of attachment.
Mm.
And what happens is in our system, we then develop characters and identity of becoming the nice guy, the
Mhm.
people pleaser,
Mm.
because we want to do right and do it for others so that we could be liked, but then we end up abandoning ourselves. So we end up having really difficult times in our self-worth because we're abandoning ourselves. It's a lot of resentment because whenever you say yes, but you actually mean no, that
Mm.
tension in your body that's created, there's this tension in your body that's created, and that's resentment. And so you can't help but resent yourself when you do that. So this is a very insidious, quiet little form of distress response of reactivity, as we talked about, that
Yeah.
most people don't know they're doing. But the way that it shows up in your life is relationships. You're constantly feeling like you have to put on an act,
Really good, man.
put
Really
on an
good.
act in order to be liked by other people. And that is a one-way ticket to misery.
100%. So good. All right, let's grab a couple of these guys in here. Let's see, Amy in. Let's get you in here, sir. And did I see you out there murphing? Did I see you out there murphing with the fam? I think I saw you out there at Arate.
Yes, sir. I sure did.
I love it, man. That's awesome. That was cool. Cool to see. Good to see you, brother.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. Well, Doctor, thanks for talking to us. You're kind of blowing my mind. I love this, and particularly as it pertains to attachment. My wife and I, gone through marriage counseling, many times over the past several years, and honestly, I think the attachment theory aspect is the thing that probably has helped us the most, at least in understanding how we relate to each other and the effects of childhood and honestly what I aside from my relationship to my wife, also how to be a better parent to my kid and understanding emotions, because and I don't know if we're going to get into this, but
Mm-hmm.
I learned that I was a dismissive avoidant
Yes.
personality and my
Yeah.
wife is a fearful avoidant
Oh,
personality. And
must be a fun time
yeah,
in your home. Oh my
it
gosh,
is
huge
absolutely. I mean,
compassion towards you.
yeah, and I found that my biggest struggle is on the emotional side of the house. Whether I've learned to suppress that over the years or just not be I'm not attuned to emotions with my girls very well. I've learned
Yeah.
a lot over the past year or so. Whereas my wife is very much on the opposite side of the spectrum. And
Yeah.
I like peace. I don't like all the craziness. Just give me a problem, I'll help you solve it. I don't have to deal with this. Where for her, it's she needs to be seen, she needs to be understood, and I'm having to learn how to love her so that she feels understood. Where and that's a weak area for me, when you go down the
I
emotional
hear you.
realm. So,
I hear you.
just saying that from, talking about the dismissive avoidant versus fearful avoidant, just a question. One is I try to be a better parent with my two girls. Um, what advice do you give with somebody that's trying to make his girls, I guess, feel that,
Yeah.
understood and loved
Yeah.
when you're overcoming that dismissive avoidant personality?
Hmm. Good
Yeah.
question.
Great question. Uh, how do you pronounce your name? Amayon?
Amian.
Amian. Amian. Perfect. Where do you live, Amian, by the way?
Trick question.
It is.
My family lives in Virginia. I am military and I'm stationed in Miami, Florida. So
Okay.
I travel a lot
You're
back and forth.
traveling. Okay. So tell me if you're open to me kind of like diving in and doing kind of like my
All the
little
way. You
magic
got it.
trick. Are you okay with me getting
Absolutely.
vulnerable in front of everybody? Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So in that time, um, while you're in this situation and you're constantly getting the feedback from your girls, from your wife, that you're not seeing them, and I can totally see how hard you're trying to get it right. But what's happening inside of you as you're looking at this feedback from your three girls, your wife and your two girls? Drop into your body.
Yeah.
What are you making that
Okay.
mean about you?
Uh, Not good enough.
Beautiful. Can I get you to feel that for a moment, brother? Take a slow, deep breath and just feel that. And let all the tears or whatever wants to come up, all your feelings are welcome. And I want you to just go back to the younger version of yourself that felt not good enough. Because this is probably not the first time you're feeling this. So let yourself feel that. And as you allow yourself to feel it, really sit in it for a moment. Don't fight it. Don't try to jump out. Don't try to solve it. Just sit in it for a moment. And release the tension in the muscles of your jaw, of your face. And just take some deep breaths and sit and feel the not good enoughness of it. Sit with it. And the invitation there is for you to now turn towards that little boy and look at him and sit in it with him and just observe him as though you're looking at your own child feeling the same way. You're not fixing it. You're just saying, I see you. This is hard. That sucks to feel this way. And now, can I get you to just turn into that little boy and ask him, what are you most afraid of? And tell me what he says.
That I won't be a good man because I didn't have a father.
Yeah. And just ask him, do you need a hug? And just go ahead and put your arms around him. Do it to you right now. And just say, I got you. And just sit there and let him cry in your arms. Say, it's okay to cry. I've got you. Take a slow, deep breath and just be there. And I see you, buddy. It's okay for you to feel this way. And ask him, what do you need from me? And tell me what he says, Amian.
Tell me you're proud of me.
Mm.
Tell
Now
me
look,
you love me,
yeah.
and then I'm good enough.
Now take him by the hand and walk him through that difficult period and show him some of the wins that he's accomplished, even though he didn't have proper masculine guidance growing up. And just start to see what he got to achieve, even though he didn't have proper masculine guidance. And tell him, this is all because of you. I am so proud of you. You're the best part of me, tell him. And take slow, deep breaths, Amian, and receive that into your system. Every cell of your body, receive it from you. Now, taking him by the hand and bring him into the playground with your daughters.
Mhm.
And just know that your daughters are feeling exactly like he's feeling. And now, as you put that together, now you can answer the question that you asked. What? I'm going to turn that question back to you, brother. You can open your eyes. Now, what advice do you have for how to parent your daughters now?
Mm.
Can you see the answer just presents itself? You just treat them exactly like you just treated him. They have the same fear and the same desire. It's not about the child in front of you, it's about the kid inside of you. Can we all give Amian some love right now for his vulnerability? Like, hit that react button. Just want to
So,
say thank you, brother.
oh man, that's so good, Amy.
Thank you.
I shot you a direct message in there too, man. But I don't mean to say it out loud the same too. Just really proud of that.
Let's give him some love.
That's the work of a good man right there. So right there
The
in front,
fact that you're even asking the question is proof that you're already
100%.
on the path, bro. Just keep diving in. Send me a DM. I'd love to chat more. If you have any other questions on Instagram, just send me a DM. I'll put my Instagram thing up there. And if anybody has a DM, just go ahead. I'll just do it, Dr. Nima, right there on Instagram. Just go ahead and send me a DM, and I'd love to hear from you, Amian.
So good, man.
But this is
Thank
the
you, sir.
work, by the way. This is the work. This is how you can, you find the answers within yourself by going inward. Like I don't give advice. I guide people to getting their own advice.
Right. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you? I want to make sure you're okay on time because then we got two more hands in there. Are you okay,
Yeah.
Doc?
Hold on. Let me see. Yeah. I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Guys, we're gonna do Jers and Les's and we'll not do any more from the outside on this one to make sure we honor time. All
Okay,
right,
cool.
J Dub, let's get you in.
Hey,
J-Dub.
Doctor, thank you for jumping in, and I did want to continue that conversation on fawning, right? And we
Sure.
talk about that threat, and the threat either can be the one individual, which in my case was me, a while ago, but also it just can be in general an electric household, right? And then that where the young individuals, boy or girl, feels that it's their responsibility to keep the peace in the household, and this is kind of one of those things that I've learned, and I tell other people as I sit with them. It is not the child's job to make sure that mom and dad are okay, right? It is dad's job to make sure dad is okay. It is mom's job. But the problem is sometimes when we are not aware, we put that backpack on as a young child and we're like, okay, I've got to keep the peace because the grown-ups are not being grown-ups in the relationship. And
Correct.
so
The
until
unfortunate truth of most of us, which is why we need to do the work for the sake of our kids.
Exactly. And so I think the unfortunate thing here is we have amazing young men, and then we do have some men in this call, but not all of the young men have parents that are here or maybe willing to do the work. So for those
Yeah.
that are here, those that are, listening later on, what can an individual or a young man or young girl do when they're that individual in an electric household? And, what can they do or where can they go? Because what I do tell people is, as I sit with other men, it's like the way that you react to this conversation now for this thing, or the way that you did respond, sets the stage for every other conversation that they will or won't bring to the table, because they're going to remember exactly how you reacted. And what you don't want is, you don't want your child to then find peace in somebody else's household or in
Yeah.
some other place, and they go, "Man, this is where I want to be," because they don't feel safe at home. So
Yeah.
for someone who finds himself in that situation, what can they do until mom and dad choose to be grown-ups?
Yeah. That's tough, first of all, to be in that situation, because in an ideal world, parents are the parents and they're the adults. And unfortunately, what's a reality is to understand that we are all at the effect of our wounding and our trauma. And if we don't really take responsibility for going inward and doing the healing, we pass that on to the next generation. And that happened to me. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s where I had this big wake up call in my last relationship that really blew up, that really forced me to look inward. And I actually moved back in with my parents in my 40s at the worst rock bottom place. And my job was to heal with my parents, because I knew that unless I healed with this resistance against my parents, this victim story I had against them, I was going to repeat these relationship dynamics. So I have this process that I teach that I help people. It's called individuating. It's breaking free from the hope or the expectation that mom and dad will understand me. Right? It's not available in many cases, right? It's not, it's just the cards that we're dealt sometimes. And so the first part is to grieve that, Jeremy. The first part is to grieve that, is to give yourself permission that you have friends, you have mentors, you have a community where you can express and that to be seen. In a perfect world, you have that at home, but most people don't get that, right? And so it's about making sure that you do have support and a community around you like this one. That's the first thing. The second thing is to really try to work at, can I see the things that are bothering me about mom or dad? Can I see that they are trying to set me up to feel how they're feeling? This is a massive one. This is a huge tool. And Amian, this is the same with you. This is a good one for you as well. Is they're setting me up to feel how they're feeling? And then the question, I go, okay, so what am I feeling? I'm feeling trapped. I'm feeling suppressed and oppressed. Well, where are they feeling that? Oh, how am I contributing to them feeling that way? And it's not about taking blame. This is not about blame. This is really about understanding. And can you see that all behavior is simply an effort? This is the two principles that I want everybody to get. Is all human behavior, whether, Amian, you're a dismissive avoidant or you're fearful avoidant, all it is, or anxious attached, all it is an effort to regulate yourself because you haven't learned how to regulate. If a parent, if a person does not make it their business to learn the skill of self-regulation, they're going to use reactive behavior to try to regulate. So I'm trying to how can I understand my parents' less than inspiring behavior? Can I try to see it as it's not about my own unworthiness? It's not about me. Can I see that it's not because I'm a bad seed, bad object? It's because they are doing their best to try to regulate themselves, however way they're reacting. You know, like they're freaking out over something because they're terrified of something happening to me. Right. And so as I understand that wherever I'm at, because I have to live in their household, to just get to a place of understanding and to use that as motivation to build your own crap, to be able to get out and live on your own. Use that as motivation so that you can say, look, here's what I got to do to get out of this situation because I don't want to live under that authority anymore, and be able to be as understanding and appreciative of what is there rather than staying in this victim story around it. And so that's kind of like a general, Jeremy, that I can give you that would be the most helpful. Tell me if that's helpful for you, brother.
That is absolutely helpful. And I think, like Matt said, we could probably go on. I personally can go on 2-3 hours with you on the back and forth. And I know these young men have heard a lot of what you're saying, and I think it's great. And so I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. And
Awesome.
yeah,
Happy to be here.
Les, how are you, brother?
Doing good. I'm sorry I'm driving again. Gonna go get some exercise. Appreciate you coming, Doc. Hitting on a lot of really good stuff. Mix of things that I could definitely use and confirmations for me of things that I've worked through and come to realize. Um, I had a situation in particular I wanted to ask you about. And it's a reaction I have definitely noticed in myself as what I've read about attachment theory, would consider myself in that disorganized, avoidant category. Um, Real briefly, pursued a relationship with a longtime best friend of like 20 years. And we had a great weekend and it went to utter crap. Some things happened where I definitely got triggered in a way I've never been triggered in a long time. And it has resulted in the ending of our relationship. Friendship and romantic wise.
That's unfortunate,
And
brother.
I shut down pretty hard, and the feedback I got was that she felt I was, quote unquote, punishing her with silent treatment.
Right.
And when I look at it, I'm like, that's not at all. And we had the conversation. So that's not at all my intention. Like, whatever happened, like, I'm trying to understand what happened, but I shut down hard.
Yeah.
And I said, but I have absolutely no desire to punish you. And
Yeah.
what ended it was she said, no, that's not true. You did that completely and utterly to punish me. And that's when I just said, I am working really hard to identify how I'm feeling, very much like the process you said.
Yeah.
And to be told that that's not what I felt, I was like, hey, this is no longer a healthy relationship. But what I am trying to understand, and I know there's a protective measure to withdrawing like that.
Yep.
I'm trying to understand what is that response as far as the retreat fawn. I've always thought it as a retreat.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling to find like what is triggering when that hits that hard.
Yeah. I got it. I totally get
especially that it ends a 20-year, friendship. Like by far my best friend. That's why we decided to try to start dating.
Okay.
And
first and foremost, whoever needs to leave, go ahead. But this is such a pertinent question that I want whoever to stick around because I have an answer and this is part of the training that I give. First of all, what is your name? It says Menos Ward, but what is your name?
It's Les,
brother.
Yep.
Huge compassion. You just lost a friend and a romantic partner and you got triggered and you went into shutdown. So your nervous system went into freeze because you didn't feel safe, right? But what happened was your retreat created a trigger for her. Okay. And what I'd like for you to do is I want to help you understand this so that you can see it. And the best way that I can help you is this is why I teach people about the nervous system and how to regulate it. And what you're describing is like a freeze response where as a child doing anything was scary. So you froze. So you went into your nervous system went into shutdown. But because your withdrawal activated a younger part of her, she then felt attacked. She felt that it was a punishment, that it was done on purpose. So I want to give you some context as to what was going on for her system. And the best way that I can do that is to share like a 2-minute video. And this is called the still-faced experiment. And so I'm going to share it with you right now. And check this out. Watch this. And I want you to imagine that you are the mother in this, and that she, your girlfriend, is the baby in this experiment. Okay, check it out.
Mm-hmm.
In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby.
This is the shutdown.
The baby very quickly picks up on this. And then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it, they actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh,
And now
yes.
repair.
Oh, what a big girl.
Oh,
So now goes into repair. So this child had a mother, and now their repair happens. But what happens if that child didn't have a mother or father that brought them back to safety? They get frozen there in this experience. And guess what, Les? You were that still-faced mother to your girlfriend. She projected all of that onto you. And now you're doing it on purpose. And this is what happens when we get into relationships without being trauma informed. There are two innocent souls projecting their childhood wounds on each other by design, by the way, because we attract people into our lives and we get married to people that are going to bring the exact wound up as an opportunity for us to heal if you do the work properly. But if not, then you leave. Now, guess what? She's going to go meet somebody else. If you guys don't patch this up, she's going to meet somebody else. And without her resolving that childhood wounding, she gets to experience it again because she'll attract somebody like you who shuts down, who hasn't done his work and shuts down, doesn't know what the heck's going on, and then recreates that exact same dynamic. And now you get to look at and see, how was this an exact repetition of my childhood where I was in trouble, I was incorrectly blamed for something? That experience, Les, can you see that experience for you of being blamed for something that you didn't do is eerily similar to what you've gone through in your childhood?
Yeah.
So guess what? You attracted the perfect person to help you bring that up so that you have an opportunity for you to heal it if you do the work. But if you don't, next person that you meet, same person, different haircut. She's going to then have the same wound that you're shut down because you haven't resolved that, gets to act out until you learn how to integrate it. Welcome to the dance of interpersonal relationships, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me if that's helpful. Tell me if that's helpful for you, brother.
I think it is, and fitting it into my current relationship that we just hit a year together and had a little bit of that last week. And exactly like you said, the way we're responding to it is very different for both of us, which in this case, it actually turned it on its head and it became something that actually drove us closer together. So
So
yeah,
if you're willing, then this will come up, but you can use the conflict as a portal to deeper intimacy. So it's through the relationship rupture repair cycle that this heals. So it can't heal unless you go through with it. This is the unfortunate. You can't meet somebody and hope that they're not going to bring this stuff up. It's going to happen. And you have to have agreements. You have to have structures in place so that you can repair. And this is how healing happens, is using the relationship as a container to bring all of these shadows up and then integrate them. And then that's how love is built. The relationship becomes stronger over time. So thank you for sharing that, brother.
That was awesome. Hey, Doc.
Yeah.
I want to keep this conversation rolling.
It's all good.
We're gonna honor time here today, and
Sure.
so, but I'm gonna reach out after. What we're gonna do is I want to just end with these here of what are you working on that you're excited about right now? Where does everybody find you, and how do we as an organization best support you? Those are gonna be the final questions, and then I'm gonna take these guys through a debrief. I have a few other meetings tonight, but I want to reach out afterwards too and just keep this conversation.
Yeah.
Man,
Well,
you're doing some amazing work. So those are the final questions on our side.
It's just crazy how aligned what you do and what I do is, Matt, and I love it. And so basically my mission is I stand for healed families, essentially by teaching them the skills that we didn't learn in school, that I didn't know, but that was causing complete chaos in my life. And I'm living it first of all, but it's like, how do I make sure my son gets these skills? That's the first thing, is I'm so hell-bent in making sure that he is a master of his emotions, of self-regulation, of connecting to himself, of leadership. And so, how do you support me as an organization? Is, I'd love to, partner with you in some way. Like, it just seems like such an aligned thing. I'm not quite sure what that looks like, but I'm open to the conversation.
Yeah, let's keep having those conversations, man, because this is just such good work. It's such important work. It's such foundational work. We had a live workshop out here with some of our affiliates who are launching campuses this last weekend. And we said, look, before we even get into the how-tos and the what-tos and all these things in terms of building your tribe, it starts with who you are and who do you want to be and who do you need to be. And we need to take some time to dive into that first, because you're showing up to lead these people, but you got to be able to lead yourself, and to lead yourself, understand yourself, and you got to be able to fix yourself and create yourself and then bring the best version of yourself. So it's all of this, man. So so dang grateful.
And I'd love to participate in, if you have retreats, live event. I love that. I'm all about speaking, and so I'm all aligned and I'm all in.
Really good. Okay, so where does everybody find you? Because this is going to go out on our platform too.
If you have a question,
I'll reach out to you later. But where does everybody reach out, or where does everybody find you?
Send me an email. drnima.com is my email, drnima.com. And there's my email if you have it. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to me or anything like that. And Beckett's question, is there any situation where you need to just forgive and forget, or do you always need to debrief it? Anything that's unresolved, you get to repeat. So anything that has a breakdown, I like to take it through a process where I can take full ownership of my unconsciousness that co-created it, and feel all the things that are coming up. Otherwise, I get to repeat it. It's just easier. I'll forgive and forget. That's called cognitive bypassing, spiritual bypassing. It's like, I don't want to deal with the emotions, so I'm just gonna table it, just avoid it, and that's part of our nature, of our avoidant nature. And so anything that I keep avoiding, I get to keep repeating. So I like to kind of face it head on and work through it and take full ownership of how I co-created it.
So good. Yep, does make sense, Beckett. Oh, Doc, you're a rock star. I'm going to reach out to you a little bit later. I'll make sure that I'll send you a DM too, and make sure we got contact info all squared away.
Bet. You bet. I'm in, brother.
Powerful, brother. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Guys,
gentlemen, have a good one. All the best. Bye-bye.